Hi, it's been a minute. I'm sorry. I wasn't really feeling it. Now I'm feeling it. I wanted to repeat on here that I make it a point for my channel not to do any predictions, okay? Not because I can't pull cards and pull information out of the universe to give to you, but I don't know who I'm talking to. And I don't want to lead anybody in a direction where they don't need to be going. I want you to sit with yourself, and I want this to be a place of peace, tranquility, and guidance that you can use in whatever situations that you're in, and whatever journey that you're on, whatever path. Because I feel like as a collective, we go through cycles and we go through phases in our life where we could feel in tune with a specific reading or with a specific reader or an energy, but we can't align ourselves with someone else's goal and pick up on a desired outcome and start full-heartedly believing in it when it puts us in a place of delusion, okay? Or it puts us in a place of pain and waiting. I've been down that path. As somebody who's intuitive and somebody who's pretty empathic, I'm not psychic. I don't know what's going to happen to me or anyone else. I get downloads and like visions and feelings and energies that I feel in my body that I can't really fully describe, nor do I know who to assign it to. So it's difficult to kind of exist in this type of hypersensitive state of being. So this is why I started the channel, to kind of share specific things that I feel or believe, and maybe could help somebody on their path. But as somebody who's highly sensitive, and I think other people will understand who are similar to me, when you're very sensitive, you kind of also edge on the side of being slightly obsessive or a little bit OCD, because when you feel things, sometimes you feel things that are not good, okay? Sometimes you feel things that you might be scared of. Sometimes you feel things that are painful. And you start being slightly OCD and trying to avoid specific feelings, situations, and things. And you start to try to do a lot of wishful thinking, and you do tend to get attached to outcomes because of feelings that you feel. And this is something that I have to work on myself with, because many times we feel things that are out of this world, okay? And we don't know what to attribute it to. And we don't know whether the people that we're feeling these connections with or interactions with actually feel anything at all, And when we look for third-party validation, meaning watching readings or listening to others or trying to find answers outside of ourselves, looking for signs and synchronicities, you don't really know whether you're attracting the information because that's what you want to hear, or you're attracting information because that's actually the way that this path is playing out for you. The truth is that if you're dealing with people who are not open, who are not in the state of giving to you, whether it's giving you the truth about their feelings, their emotions, giving you kindness and love, they're not the person for you at the moment. Okay? That doesn't mean that you don't have a connection. That doesn't mean that what you're feeling isn't real. It just means that the state of being in which they're currently in is not meant for you to experience right now. What you're experiencing right now is something that you need to work through on your own and let everybody go until whoever ends up on your frequency and comes to you correctly. Because living a life of unrequited love or unrequited feelings or passion, as artistic and beautiful as it may be, it's painful. And when you feel very crazy connections to people that don't give you any feedback, it doesn't mean that the connection isn't there. It doesn't mean that you're imagining it. Whatever you're feeling is real, 100% real to you. And the way that you love is beautiful. And the way that you feel is beautiful. And you are beautiful. We just unfortunately don't know whether the connection is there as a catalyst to something greater. And by greater, I mean our own existence, our own learning, our own path. I know that I've been in connections in my life that I've been stuck in, and I've been through a lot of pain in. And you wonder when you're in it, like, can this really be all for nothing? You know what I mean? Like, is this really one-sided? Can this person that I feel so strongly for really just see me as just somebody, you know what I mean? Anybody. And the truth is that when time passes, you start to understand why those people were in your life and that they were very important in your life. But we never really know until time passes, you know, until we make specific decisions in our life to move in different ways. Because I know that if specific people didn't come into my life at the time that they did, and if they didn't cause me the pain that they've caused me, I would have never ended up being who I am today. And regardless of what I've been through, regardless of the trauma and the feelings that I've experienced, I am very proud of who I am. And I am very grateful to the people that have been in my life because they have taught me beautiful lessons that I've needed to learn. And the people that continuously come into your life and you wonder why, like, oh my God, why do these people keep teaching me lessons? You know, somebody on the other side is thinking, oh my God, when are you going to finally learn? You know what I mean? And again, regardless of how many lessons you feel like you've learned and that you just want love and happiness and bliss, you have to find that within yourself and allow yourself to feel the feelings for other people. But sometimes it just has to be from a distance. There's nothing wrong with having unconditional love for people and wanting the best for them and loving them with every cell of your body. But if those people are not showing up for you in the ways that make you feel loved, make you feel the same unconditional love that you give to them, you just can't have them near you. You can't have them in your energy. And that's it. You know what I mean? There's beauty in everything that you feel, and it's real. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, I asked my beautiful little cards here for what I should talk about. And the first couple times I pulled a few cards and I wasn't really sure what it was getting at. But this card came up every single time, all 3 times that I drew the card. So I'm guessing that's what I got to talk about. And this is the Ace of Clubs, which is aka the Ace of Wands in Tarot, which is the card of new beginnings. And so I don't do spreads, or I mean I can, but I don't want to. I look at I look at what came before, okay? A few different cards. And what I see here is a person, a female spirit, feminine energy, that perhaps had everything together, you know, was in a good place in life, was in a commitment, happy place, marriage, relationship, whatever it is, happy existence. Doesn't have to be relationship, but just being in content, with issues occurring in the love life department, be it issues with relationship, setbacks in marriages, misunderstandings, disagreements, etc., to leading up to a very burdened feeling. This is not exactly like the 10 of Swords or the 10 of Spades, which would, you know, mean a complete ending of something. But this is the overburdened card, the equivalent to the 10 of Wands, being overburdened and conceived with responsibilities and thoughts, and not really a good place to be. And then the final card that I'm here to talk about is the Ace of Clubs, which is the Ace of Wands in Tarot, which is a new beginning. And I'm not going to tell you what this new beginning is in, because that is completely up to you and depends on what you went through. Now, because there was a Five of Hearts, which kind of leads me to believe this has something to do with relationships. And generally speaking, people come to tarot because of love and relationships. Because when we're dealing with other people, it's hard to know when other people are being honest to us, whether they're being dishonest, whether we really know the full picture of what they're up to or their feelings or what they're going through. So it's very difficult when there isn't open communication, especially in the new world, where it's very difficult for people to fully commit to each other because of fear, because of past traumas, and because of the current human collective's inability to really sit with their pain. Okay. I feel like previously in life, different generations, the feeling of heartbreak, the feeling of pain used to be something that people would just sit with. It's something that they would sit with, they would experience, and then they would be ready to move on and find love, you know. People went through wars, people went through hardships, people went through hunger, and people relied on very intimate, deep connections in their life, generally with, one other person, a marriage, where a marriage to another human was really an all-encompassing commitment to another person, where you could full-heartedly rely on another person. Today, unfortunately, the meaning of love and the meaning of marriage has become a lot more shallow. There's a lot more kind of price tags on everything, and a lot more connections being made for very superficial reasons. People connecting with each other because of a whole checklist rather than deep emotional connection. And so, because the card of new beginnings came up, I want to remind you to kind of step back in time. The card of options. To step back in time and realize that you don't actually have options, okay? When you find the love in your life, there is no options to get to here. Which is Ten of Diamonds, Ten of Pentacles, where you want to be, okay? There's no options for that. When you find the love of your life, there is no options. And if you sit in a place of perceived idea that there's options, you will never find the love of your life, because you're always going to sit there in comparison. You're going to compare. She looks or he looks like this, and she looks like that. They have this, they have that, they don't have this. It's a constant turmoil that will put you in a place of being overburdened. And I think this is in particular to one relationship probably that you were dealing with that wasn't going the way that maybe you wanted, or the way that you previously were when you were just so recently, being the Queen of Diamonds or the Queen of Pentacles energy, where you kind of had everything together and then it kind of just seems to have somewhat fallen apart. Which a lot of us find ourselves in, to be honest. And then, we always look back to like our youth and it's like, oh my God, haven't I learned enough lessons? Like I was really thinking that I was going to be on my way and I had it all figured out. But fate and love and just our life has a way of turning things, on its head. And I mean, my little playing card deck obviously doesn't have like Tower and Devil and all that stuff. So this is why I just pick up on energy and kind of run with it, because I have stuff to talk about. And again, everyone's situation is different. But if you find yourself in a place where you're overburdened, and you need a new beginning. That doesn't necessarily mean you need a new beginning with a new person. That doesn't mean that you need that it's even talking about love. But the feeling of being overburdened is something that is very, it's a place of modern times, because we allow ourselves to start dwelling on things that don't matter. We allow ourselves to start getting overworked and over-focused and hyper-focused on things that don't matter. We allow ourselves to feel like we have options. And to me, humans have really taken the true meaning of soulmates and connections to a place of a shopping spree, okay? To where people didn't used to have access to the internet, right? They didn't used to see millions of people online. They didn't used to join a dating site, and find or be matched with 100, 200 people. Like, how are you ever supposed to make a choice if you're giving yourself all these choices? It used to be a lot more kind of romantic, where you go and you stand in line. Like, my grandparents met standing in line for bread during the war when they were 13 years old, 13 or 14 years old, okay? There was no, like, whoever was in that line is who was in that line, And two little kids just happened to be next to each other. And two little kids decided that was going to be their path and that they were going to be together. Other people meet by chance. And to me, I always, when it comes to deep connections, I always feel like fate puts them on your path organically. Because if you go looking for it, you don't even know what's good for you. You know what I mean? Generally, you don't always know what's good for you. You look for kind of ego-based things. Like, you look for a specific type, a specific look, a specific profession, or whatever, and you have like this perfect whatever person in your mind, and then you go online looking for them. And whether you find them because you're scrolling through IG or whatever, or you find them on a dating site, you don't know whether, like, that is somebody's impression of themselves. That's not even them. You see a 2D version of somebody in the 5D, somebody who has depth or doesn't, somebody who has traumas, fears, secrets, things like that. And you don't even see them in the wild. You're just seeing them on a screen. It's like going to Target, and going through shelves and shelves and shelves of options and picking the one that, that you like. And it's not organic, okay? It's not natural. It's not the universe presenting you with what you actually need. And so if you find yourself in a place of a new beginning, sit with yourself and truly understand how you feel currently about yourself, about maybe a situation that you're in, or a situation that you've been in. And if you really want to invite somebody into your life, step away from the internet, okay? Step away from the dating sites. Step away from the hookups. And allow yourself to feel the energy that you want to feel with another human, okay? And try to watch people before you interact with them in a romantic way. It's kind of like going on a safari. And when you see a picture of a lion on the internet, it's nowhere near seeing a lion in its natural habitat. When you see somebody and you see pretty pictures of them, whether it's a boy or a girl, you don't know what you're getting into. You're seeing a representative of them. You are not seeing, do they hold the door for elderly? Do How do they interact with their family, their mom? How do they treat their mom? How do they treat, their siblings if they have any, or their friends? You don't really know any of that stuff. And so you waste a whole lot of time and effort trying to get to like that first initial stage of finding out more about a person. But even then, like, okay, so you meet a person online and then you go on a date. Okay, on a date, somebody shows up in their best possible version of themselves. They dress up, they practice whatever their lines, they talk about whatever. And like, aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of repeating the same goddamn thing over and over again? You know what I mean? Like, allow yourself just to live your life. Find the peace within yourself to live your life before you try to enter into any new beginning with any new person, whoever that may be. And I think that you will see that life will put the people in your path. And you could go through a few more lessons, but at least you'll know that these are organic people. You know what I mean? You'll meet people and you'll watch how they treat you. You'll watch how they treat other people. You'll see how they interact in their life, how they live. And then you can decide whether you want to be involved with that person romantically, how they actually show up for you. Because online, everyone they stop talking to each other in real life. All they do now is they see somebody they like in the wild, and then they won't even come up to you. They'll find you on Instagram or they'll find you somewhere else, and then they'll like go into your DMs, and it's like, do you even want a person like that? Like a person who doesn't have the guts to come up to you and tell you that they like you, that they want your phone number, that they think you're pretty or whatever, or handsome. Like, plus, if you allow yourself to meet people organically, you're kind of going to be meeting people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, that are in a place where you're at, whether it's somewhere where you frequent, or you have kind of a group of friends together, or you're doing something that you like doing and that person is also into that. Because trust me, as we get older, we realize that we spend so much time pretending to like something that we don't give a crap about, just because someone else does. We try to mold ourselves. We spend sometimes decades molding ourselves into something that we feel that somebody that we like would like, We start watching football as women. I'm talking from a female standpoint. We start watching football. We couldn't care less about football. You know how much time you spend doing that if you don't actually care about it? And yes, there's females that love football. There's females that love different sports and doing specific things, But just think about it. How much time have you wasted in your life doing things or pretending to like things that you wouldn't do in your normal life? And then ask yourself, has it paid off? Because it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do things together. But like, if you find yourself in a place where you're not even getting the emotional satisfaction from a person, and yet you have wasted your life when this entire time all you wanted to do was go dancing and dance, and you completely stopped dancing and all you did was watch football, or all you did was watch hockey or basketball or whatever it may be. And that's not to say that, men and women will always have different kind of different interests. And it's not to say that if you love dancing, the men that you're going to meet in dancing are going to be the men for you. But just allow yourself the space and the time to fully understand what you want out of life. And then I feel like then you'll be able to connect with the right new beginning. And that could be the person that you've been with, and that could be a person from your past, or that could be a new person, or that could mean working out with something that hasn't been working out and that has you feeling burdened. Maybe you're feeling burdened because you have zero time to enjoy things and do things that you like. Maybe you haven't been able to speak up for yourself because you've always minimized your emotions. And I heard something amazing yesterday, actually. And it was a gentleman who happens, I think he's like a therapist or something. I don't know. He's somewhat of an online personality, I guess. But he was saying, he was speaking to other men who kind of, instead of talking about emotions, instead of talking through things, they go into silence. And when they go into silence, or they kind of they might get explosive, they might, yell, and then just kind of shut down. And then the woman learns to shut down, right? And the woman's body learns to shut down in his presence, and her whole energy changes. And this is where people start to really get burdened in their marriages and their relationships, where they he said amazing words. He's talking to other men, when your presence starts to feel like lack of safety, when loving you starts to feel like danger, the body is very in tune with energy that it is receiving and that it is surrounded by. And so various times when we go through tumultuous experiences romantically in our life, our body is the first to respond. Our skin starts to change. We start seeing aging faster. We start seeing skin reactions to things that it's never been reacting to before. We start seeing conditions, like I started getting all these dry patches everywhere. And these conditions, could be diagnosed or not, but they're very related to feeling uncomfortable in a situation, feeling like something is not okay, but not being able to speak on it because you're afraid that speaking on it would make it worse. Speaking on it might raise issues that you're not ready to face. It might lead to an ending that you're not ready to take, especially if you have a family or something like that. And I know this is getting lengthy, but I really want, especially my females out there, to sit with yourself and truly understand what makes you happy. How do you want to lead the rest of your life? And I also want to say that if you are in a relationship or a marriage where you are contemplating leaving somebody, and I know that when we get to a point in a relationship or a marriage where we feel very overburdened, we feel in pain, we feel like we've been through trauma, we start to see bright lights and sparks in others. And we kind of start to gravitate like, oh my God, there's my beacon of light. There's my hope. There's my whatever. But we do so not really based on fact, because any type of infatuation that we might get into with a new person is going to very quickly fade, because the same infatuation that you might have with a new person is the same infatuation that you had with your current person at some point. And then, things happen, life happens. And so if you don't make a shift in yourself to ensure that you don't lead again down the same path with a very similar person, you have to understand that connections are not just, shits and giggles. Like, it's hard to put somebody in front of you, and that's what consideration is. And that's why a lot of relationships fail, because of lack of consideration, because you're not putting someone else's needs in front of you. And that's why a lot of people aren't ready to commit to another person, because they're not ready to put somebody else's needs, desires, and wants and goals in life in front of their own. And that's what you kind of have to do when you're with somebody. It's nice when your goals are kind of similar, but it's very difficult when the goals are very not the same, or they shift, because when we connect with people, we're kind of on the same level, we're on the same frequency. But that doesn't mean that that's gonna last an entire lifetime. Some people start to ascend and start to spiritually awaken, or just mature a lot, while others either stay in the same place or even kind of downgrade depending on their experiences in life. And so unless you stay here and you grow together, very frequently do we start here and end up like this, or start here and end up like that, or like this or like that, And you know, as much as I believe in marriage and lifelong commitment, I don't know whether everybody is really able to find that person for a lifetime, because we do all change and we do all shift. And it's wonderful when people are capable of maneuvering through life together and shape shifting together. You know what I mean? Like if one person elevates, the other person has to kind of look up to that and be like, wow, that is inspiring, and completely let go of their ego, male or woman, male or female, and be like, wow, I want to be here too. Show me how you got to here. You know, I want to elevate. I want to listen to what you've listened to. I want to read what you read. I want you to talk to me more. I want to be here because I think that where you're at is beautiful. Whereas other times, people who are here are like, ew, you think you're all that, and what are you doing? And you know, and they're kind of like, I'm not comfortable with this, and they end up in a very like apathetic place. And then you end up here, and you can't spend too much time here without being resentful towards each other. And that's when things start to go awry, when people experience resentment and silence. So yeah, it's a very long conversation that, you know, I could keep going on forever, but find your peace first and see if the person that you, that's what I wanted to say. If you're getting ready to, if you're finding yourself in a place where you want to let go of someone, only let go and walk away when you feel like you would be better off on your own. Because before you're ever in a place where you could find someone else, you have to be comfortable on your own. And so if you're in your head like, I'm going to be better off with him, I'm going to be better off with her, no, that's not the time. You need to sit there and think about what you have and what you've already worked on with the person that you have. Only when you find yourself in a place where you're like, you know what, I'm better off on my own because this is too painful. This is too much trauma. This is not where I am physically and mentally okay. When you feel that you would be better off by yourself, that is when it's time probably to start thinking about disconnecting from an energy. And on that note, I wish you all the best, and I wish you healing, and I wish you love, and I wish you a wonderful new beginning, either with the situation that you're in, or a new one, or just a state of mind. Okay, bye.